Now we've got Congressman Robert Garcia. Thanks for joining me again.
Happy to.
So I want to talk about a situation that you've found yourself in. This is one of the biggest news stories in the country right now. Ed Martin, who is the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., has sent a letter to you after comments that you made where you basically offered up a metaphor. What the American public wants is for us to start bringing actual weapons to a bar fight, a little bit of a mixed metaphor there. But Ed Martin used that opportunity as a way to reach out to you to seek further information. So basically looking to put you in the crosshairs of the DOJ or one of the U.S. Attorney's office. Can I have your response to the fact that he is taking an instance that is neither unambiguous or actionable and basically using it to present as if you're going to be the target of some investigation at the DOJ?
Right. I mean, I'm taken aback by what's going on. This is crazy. You have basically a U.S. attorney who is essentially sending me a threatening letter that somehow, because I criticized Elon Musk, and I've been continuously criticizing Elon Musk for his rating of our institutions and our very government, I'm getting a letter basically saying that I'm going to be investigated by the Department of Justice, essentially for using a metaphor and figure of speech.
Yeah.
And this idea that Donald Trump, who is literally pardoning January 6 insurrectionists, that his Department of Justice is going to threaten a member of Congress for using a metaphor. I mean, I don't know what to say at that point. And so we just got the letter, obviously. They're demanding I respond by next Tuesday. And it's important for people to know that Donald Trump is now using the Department of Justice to try to silence critics of Elon Musk. And we've got it. People got to know this. It's not right. And the most important thing is we will not be silenced and we will not back down.
Well, as I mentioned before, the standard for a threat that the DOJ should be investigating is that it's clear, unambiguous, and actionable. Your comment was clearly none of those things. And so given that fact, are you going to be responding to Ed Martin's request for more information, for clarification?
So we're going to be making that decision here in the next few days. What I'm not going to do is what they want, which is to be quiet, to not criticize Elon Musk, to feel threatened, to basically be an example to show other members of Congress that they shouldn't criticize Elon Musk. I mean, it's clear what is happening here. And so I think we're going to be very thoughtful in our response, but it will be guided by the Constitution and by Congress having a role, particularly in this moment, to be the opposition party. I mean, who are we if we are not actually going to, in this moment, fight against people that are trying to destroy our democracy? If we can't use figures of speech, if we can't use metaphors, we're also protected as members of Congress in being able to actually push against administration in the Constitution. And so I think this is a very dangerous moment for the country. No one with any sort of good sense, would take what I said as threatening in any way. I mean, you just have to watch the interview or read what I said. And the bigger issue is trying to silence the opposition, and it's just not going to happen.
Can you build on the fact that, as you mentioned, I mean, it's the speech and debate clause is in the Constitution. It affords you protections to be able to speak freely in the same way that it affords every member of Congress to speak freely. Again, it's not some statute. It's not up for interpretation. This is something that is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution. And so, what does it say that the Department of Justice is now? The folks who are supposed to be upholding the law are discarding that in deference to doing the bidding of Donald Trump or going after perceived enemies of Trump and the Republican Party.
Well, I think it's very concerning. And I think the other thing, Brian, I think, and we've talked about this, like, we know that at this moment, Democrats need to match the energy that's on the ground that people feel. People feel angry. Yeah. People are upset, rightly so. People want Democrats to fight for our values. And so when those of us that are out there fighting, pushing back. So what the response is going to be is that then we essentially are going to be threatened with possible prosecution for that fight. So it's pretty clear what they're trying to do here. They're trying to intimidate us. Yeah. They're trying to silence critics, and they're going to try to go after the most vocal folks. They're trying to push back on Elon Musk and his rating of the federal treasury and trying to essentially create a system where he gives himself and his billionaire friends a huge tax cut. And so that's what's happening at this moment. People should be very concerned about this letter. Look, this letter is not about me. It's about trying to silence critics in Congress and across the country. And we can't stand for it.
Can you talk about the irony of this letter being sent on behalf of Elon Musk, who for so long has framed himself as some champion for free speech, now trying to police that exact phenomenon, police not only your ability to speak freely, but also your ability to have constitutionally protected speech as a member of Congress?
I think that's exactly right. I mean, it's incredibly ironic and quite disturbing. And look, I'm not sure how much folks know about who Donald Trump's new acting U.S. attorney is, but this is someone that has defended the January 6th insurrectionists.
Yeah.
This is someone that's talked about stopping this steal in the last election, handpicked, of course, by Donald Trump, and clearly going after people that Donald Trump perceives as problematic, myself included, in using his Justice Department in a way that is really dangerous for this country. And so I think it's important for us to not allow this to silence criticism of Elon Musk. And I think that's something that's really important.
Congressman, this is something that I've spoken about with Mark Elias and Glenn Kirshner, but this idea of prosecutors who are at the DOJ, who are at the FBI, and these folks might be through and through Republicans, like Danielle Sassoon and Hagan Scotton. When these folks self-select out because they're not willing to do the bidding of Trump, as was the case in New York when Emile Beauvais tried to get them to dismiss the charges against Eric Adams, they'll self-select out. And so is there some concern among you and your Democratic colleagues that even when they self-select out because they're not willing to do the corrupt bidding of Trump, that these people are going to get replaced by folks like Ed Martin, who are perfectly content to do the corrupt bidding of Pam Bondi and Trump and Kash Patel. And so eventually it's not going to be a situation where okay, you're going to butt up against some obstacles. Eventually it's going to be a situation where the people like Ed Martin fill up the entirety of the ranks of our justice system. So does that concern you that 1 month in to Trump's administration, yes, there are some obstacles, but already the fact that somebody like Ed Martin is in a position of power to be able to do this, that eventually we're going to get to the point where the entire DOJ looks a lot more like Ed Martin than it does Danielle Sassoon or Hagan Scotton?
It's very concerning. And look, I understand the resignations. They're not going to do these unconstitutional, illegal bidding of Donald Trump, and they're taking a stand for the country. So I respect the way many of them have been very public in their exits. At the same time, absolutely, they're going to get replaced by people that are willing to do the bidding of Donald Trump, that are willing to go after the administration's enemies, that are willing to take on someone that just criticizes Elon Musk by using metaphors or figures of speech. And so that's something that we should be that is very concerning. I think a lot of House members on the Democratic side are very concerned about it. And one of the things that we have to watch, especially as we know that one of the best tools to take on what Elon Musk is doing is in the courts, right? It's in the courts where we're actually winning some of these court cases. And so all of it's important, and we got to ring the alarm bell.
And that's something I want to dig into a little bit because, and I'm almost afraid to ask this question because Trump it is largely his prerogative to be able to name these folks, notwithstanding the fact that it pushes back against precedent and norms. But as we've seen, Trump doesn't care about precedent or norms or defending our institutions. And so is there anything that can be done to push back against the remaking of the Justice Department and the FBI and these U.S. Attorney's Office in Trump's mold?
Well, I think first is we have to remember there's still a lot of great judges and lawyers out there, right? And prosecutors. A lot of the cases that we're bringing, that attorneys generals are bringing, are going in front of Republican judges, and they are siding with the people. They're siding with these groups that are out there saying that the federal government shouldn't be dismantled, that people deserve due process if they're being fired from their job. And so I think we have to trust that there's still great judges and great lawyers out there. And at the same time, let the public know, make people aware that a lot of the folks that Donald Trump wants to appoint are unqualified to either serve on the bench or to serve as U.S. attorneys. And I think that is going to be really important. I think that we've got to make it very clear who these folks are, what their histories are, and we've got to be very public about pushing back. In some cases, there won't be a lot that we can do, but in others, there is action we can take. We can get the House majority back. We can elect good attorney generals. We can make sure that we are pushing hard when there are elections for judgeships across this country. So those are all things that folks on the ground, a lot of legal organizations are also working on, and I'm proud to partner with, because what we cannot have is what is happening right now, where an acting U.S. attorney in a very powerful, of course, jurisdiction can go after members of Congress for essentially criticizing an administration official.
What is the natural conclusion of having somebody like Ed Martin in office as it relates to Americans more broadly? Because a lot of people are going to see this and they're going to say, well, yes, he's going after a prominent Democratic member of Congress that is a more obvious target than your everyday American. But what can this look like? How can having an overtly corrupt U.S. attorney like Ed Martin in office, or like some other folks who I'm sure we're going to see pop up in the future, what's the logical conclusion of the corruption that we're seeing at the DOJ, in the sense that how can it impact regular people?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not going to stop at going after a member of the Congress. That's part of that overall plan. I mean, they can go after anyone that they want to weaponize. I think that's what's really dangerous about the moment, and people should be concerned. Anyone that is trying to do good, whether it's folks that are protesting, whether it's folks that are out there calling attention issues, with members of the media that are calling out these issues, I think their ability to target folks, which we know is right out of the authoritarian playbook, is really dangerous. And we should note that everything they said they would do, Project 2025, which a lot of folks are like, oh, what is this thing? It's happening.
Yeah.
They're implementing Project 2025, including going after their enemies.
Right. I think that's a great point, and something that I sounded the alarm about in advance of the election was the idea of him enacting Schedule F, which is gutting career civil servants to be able to hire political appointees instead. That is what's happening in real time right now. And to your point about being able to target regular Americans, it's not just the DOJ that Trump is gutting and having those folks replaced with political appointees, political flacks. He's going into every department. And so what could that look like at the IRS, for example, if he wants to audit somebody or target somebody's finances at the Treasury or in its Social Security Administration? I mean, having his hands in all of these different administration, added to the fact that we see how willing he is to kind of exercise his power over his critics, really is a terrible recipe. And so, to that point, let's finish off with this. What is the status of his ability to be able to go in and really purge these agencies of those career civil servants as of right now? I know that there are a lot of pending lawsuits, and we have the 14 states that are suing the federal government right now. Do you have any status as to where we stand as of right now in terms of Trump's ability to just gut these agencies of career civil servants?
Well, we know that the court rulings and the reaction have been mixed. So in some cases, Trump is doing serious damage to our agencies. He's firing people, letting go of folks who simply got promotions. He's letting people go. I mean, the FAA, over 400 FAA technicians and staff that are charged with keeping America's airspace safe were have been let go, and we see what's happening right now. And so really dangerous moves in some cases. In other cases, courts are stepping in and creating some buffer and pushing back on the administration that they are not allowed to do this. But what's concerning is I don't think the administration cares what the court says. And we're already seeing right now the setup of trying to impeach folks in the judicial system, of Elon Musk and others saying, well, don't pay attention to what the courts have to say. So we've got to be vigilant. We've got to stay on it. I think our Democratic attorney generals right now are doing incredible work across this country. I encourage folks to support them. We've got to do everything that we can to let members of Congress and others know that just because they threaten us, that shouldn't make us retreat, but we got to actually push harder.
Congressman, I appreciate your sense of fight, as was the exact same thing I said to you a few days ago when we spoke in Washington, D.C., and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.